When you leave your dog at home alone. Haldis! Haldis! What happened? What happened here? Bad dog. Bad Haldis.
Mr. Lee.
Hello everyone, Marius here. I'm back. My PC is back from the shop. So we're back at it with some flat screen to VR stuff. And today's video is all about Spider-Man. Specifically Spider-Man Miles Morales. But this works either way. Either way you're playing like, what's it called? The Amazing Spider-Man or Miles Morales on PC. It shouldn't really matter, okay? So it's all about Spider-Man, and before we get into that, today I will be covering two mods. The reason is my baby is very close to getting born now. Like I'm thinking it's probably like a week. So I'm probably gonna be gone for a while. Yeah, so I'm just gonna do two videos in one video today instead of doing one. So I will be covering the mod father, Luke Ross's VR mod for Spider-Man, and my own VR mod, because like just before I had to send my PC to the shop, I made a super depth 3D VR profile for Spider-Man, which I shared on Nexus Mods. So that gives you the ability to play the game with stereoscopic 3D. So I will be covering both because it took me a long time making that mod, and I think it's a good option if you have a low to mid-range PC. Like if you have anything in the high end, I would stick with Luke Ross's mod, obviously, because that is like proper stereoscopic 3D, while mine, it's more like fake 3D, right? It uses the same thing like when with old 3D movies, right? Same effect where you kind of like displace the picture a little bit to give it that 3D feel, and then you need a supported software to display it in what's called half side-by-side mode to see that 3D effect. But it is free though, or that is, you will need a software to be able to display it in half side-by-side though. But there's a free option for that as well. However, Luke Ross's mod you will need to pay for and support him on Patreon. So we'll jump straight into that. If you want the proper VR mod for Spider-Man, both the Amazing Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales for PC, you will need to support Luke Ross on Patreon. This is real simple. I have a link down in the description. It's like a subscription based thing. So I think it costs like $12 US or something. 120 Norwegian kroners. How much is that in US dollars? 2 USD, that is, yeah, $12. So not super expensive. And then you get access to his Spider-Man mods, mod for Horizon Zero Dawn, Cyberpunk 2077, Elden Ring, Dark Souls Remastered, Final Fantasy Remake, VR, Ghostwire Tokyo, Ghost Runner, Stray, Grounded, these aren't listed, and Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man and Miles Morales. So you get a lot of VR mods through this subscription. Yeah, so that's how that works. And here, once you've paid, you'll get access to his VR mods. I think you should skip the one where it says start here, because this is more like setting things up. I'm gonna talk about that in a moment. But this version, Real Mod 840, is not the newest one. You have to scroll down a little bit farther to find Real Mod by Luke Ross version 9.21. That is the latest one. At this point in time, maybe when you're watching this, there's a new one, right? Yeah, when it comes to installing this for Spider-Man, you will of course need a version of Spider-Man. I bought mine on Steam. So really simple to install this mod. You just find the game in your Steam library. So here we have Miles Morales, and you go to Browse Local Files, and that will send you to the file directory for this game, and in here you want to place the mod. That's how simple and intuitive and easy this whole process has gotten. So let's see here. Here we have it, Real Mod 921. All of this stuff you just want to copy and paste into your folder. I'm not going to do it because I've already done it. Once that is done, you want to find the one that's called Real Config, and you want to double click and run this thing. I've already ran it, so yeah, it asks me whether I want to keep my settings or delete them, because I've already done this before, so I'm not going to do anything. But for you, first time installment, it's just going to be, yeah, straightforward. However, since I had my own mod installed here, I've actually disabled Luke Ross's mod, and that is very simple to do. I'm going to show you. You find the thing called DXGI, and you change the name of this to .back, B-A-K. Then the mod gets disabled. So now, since I ran the Real Config thing again, I guess it created a new DXGI. I'm just going to delete that one. And I'm just going to change the name back to DXGI. It might be that I screwed things up now, but not a big deal. So if you ever want to disable Luke Ross's mod, it's that straightforward. You just find the thing named DXGI in your main games folder and change its name. And once you want to play it again, you just change it back. That's it. Yeah. So now that mod is installed. Now you can just run the game in your headset. But before you use Luke Ross's mod, he recommends that you change a couple of settings. So I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to change this back to BAK. Now the mod is disabled, right? So I also need to uninstall my own VR mod for this game. Let's see. There we go, Reshade, which is super simple. I just go into Reshade, Miles Morales, blah blah blah. There we go, uninstall. So now I've uninstalled Reshade for Miles Morales. Then it should run in normal flat screen. We'll try, folks, okay? I have a lot of stuff going on my computer here, so but I'm gonna show you before how this is done, okay? So before you boot up the game in VR, it's recommended that you change a couple of settings. And I think it says here in his post, not this one, but that one. Here we go. setup. So what you want to do, you want to change the window mode to windowed. Just do this in regular flat screen, because if you try to do this in your headset, it will look all weird, and just don't, okay? HDR unchecked, aspect ratio on auto, dynamic resolution scaling off, VSync off, NVIDIA reflex low latency off, depth of field off, and no motion blur. That's all you need to do, okay? If you're an NVIDIA user, I would highly recommend using DLSS with this game, because it's really well implemented and you get a ton of frames. And as you guys most certainly are most interested in, since I make my optimization guides, how does this run on low-end systems? So Luke Ross, he got himself an RTX 2060, which is pretty low range, right? To specifically try out this, and with his new rendering method, I think it's called. Yeah, I called it The Amazing Spider-Man. It's called Marvel's Spider-Man Remastered. Sorry about that. But either way, okay? AER version 2. This thing is pretty amazing, man, because when I play the game, I activate this new mode called AER version 2 with 1/3 rate, and I'm keeping a totally consistent frame rate. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. So I have not been able to do what he says that you can do here, that you can turn on 90 Hertz mode and have like a third of that, which should give you, or 2/3 of that, which should give you 60 frames per second. I've not done that, or that is, I haven't been successful with it on my system, but that's probably because I'm aiming for a very high resolution though. So otherwise, like for me, I just put it on 72 Hertz, my Quest, and then ran with 1/3 rate in AER version 2, and I kept 48 frames per second. I always turn on the show FPS option. And now this might sound bad to you, right? 48 frames per second in VR, but it's not. So it doesn't work in that way. It's really weird. I don't know how to describe it, but it feels totally smooth. So where you previously kind of, I don't know how to even explain it, because I'm not into the technicalities of this. I don't understand it at all. But it's like the ghosting is totally different. I wouldn't say it's gone, or at least not for me though, but it is most certainly different, and it feels very smooth, like extremely smooth. So even though it shows like 48 FPS, the weird thing about that though is when I try to use the old rendering method Luke Ross used, it does not. So it's like I'm not able to achieve that perfect frame rate when I use the old method. And that's like a thing with Spider-Man in general, right? When you're flying up high in the sky, you get like 100 FPS. And if you're on a low range or mid-range PC, when you're down on the ground with like the crowds and cars and all of that stuff, then all of a sudden you jump like from 100 frames per second down to 50, right? So, and that's the problem for me with Miles Morales and Spider-Man in general, right? So that's the nice thing about this, is that this method locks your frame rate, so it always feels smooth. Yeah, but I'm gonna show you how this works, okay? I've been babbling a long time now. Sorry about that, guys. It's been a long time since I even made a video for you. So, I'm gonna turn off the sound on my PC here. However, though, I don't know if you guys notice this at all on your end, but I have a dead pixel on my screen. Maybe it looks like, maybe it's even something you can see on the capture here. If so, don't worry about it. You don't have a smudge or scratch on your screen. It's on my end, okay? All right. So very low frame rate here on my end. I think that is because I've kind of gone apeshit with my settings for recording stuff. Most certainly OBS is way overpowered here. Not a pleasure to look at, but we don't worry about that right now. I'm just going to show you the settings you need to change, okay? So you want to put this in windowed mode, okay? You want to turn off VSync and NVIDIA Reflex. You want to turn off dynamic resolution scaling. I'm pretty sure this is on by default. And since I'm an NVIDIA user, I want to use DLSS. Okay, that's it. What else? What's there? Yeah, the nice thing about Spider-Man is the presets. So if you have a low-end PC or mid-range PC for that matter, you just want to turn this presets to either low or very low. So I'm kind of an FPS snob, so I put it on very low. And this is kind of like with Cyberpunk. The game is so well made that it looks pretty no matter what, pretty much. Like, of course, if you're able to pump everything to the max, then it will look stunning and breathtaking. But either way, it still manages to look good. So that's just how it's made, you know. Insomniac are extremely good at making games. And this preset, it gives you a ton of FPS. So these are my settings. Just turn it on the preset called very low. You could, of course, start messing with this, but you're not going to see that enormous payback, because the game looks pretty no matter what, you know what I mean? Okay, so that's it. I turned everything on very low. Now, I'm pretty sure we're set to go. Depth of field. Did I remember that one? Let's just check. I think so. I think I turned it off. Film grain you do not need. Field of view, that is just how close your camera is to your character. I actually prefer when it's pretty up close and personal, since there's no first person view in this thing. So that's why mine is under 0, you know what I mean? Motion blur is off, yeah. So here everything is set to go. Then, don't worry about the FPS. I'm getting 30 FPS. That is because OBS is set to record on 4K or something. Pretty insane, okay? So don't worry about that. When I'm recording my VR footage, I'm going to record internally on my Quest 2. So then we should see some totally different numbers. Okay, so that's what you need to just set it up. Okay, folks, there we go. So the setup process with Blue Cross's mod can be pretty annoying, to say the least, but since windowed mode doesn't have any resolution slider, you will have to head in here every single time and click on adapt resolution. Yeah, so first off, you want to head to your display and graphics. For me, this thing always forgets that I want to play it in windowed mode. Hopefully you don't need to tackle that shit. From here, we can now put this on. Yeah, I think it was 1984 by 1984 or something. And we want this on a 3rd rate adapt resolution. Yeah, hopefully this should work. Yeah, it takes a little second, and there we go. So other than this, as I said, I'm playing with DLSS on quality. And this is proper 3D right here. The nice thing about this though is that it feels extremely smooth. My graphics are on the very low preset, but because it is pretty demanding, right? Yeah, but now, like this is 3-dimensional. There's no mistaking it. Like this is proper 3D. This is VR 3D, right? And personally, when I play it like this, I get a super smooth experience. But it is kind of weird in a way. It's like it's smooth but not smooth at the same time. I'm not sure if it's intended to be played the way I'm playing it though. Like, probably not. So I guess I'll have to head back here to check up on if there are some different settings I might tweak, especially in the VR mod, because it kind of looks wrong, if you know what I mean. But it still gets the job done. Like this looks really smooth, but I am only achieving like 48 frames per second. You see that? But it does not feel like 48 frames per second though.
Those people are definitely burglars.
So that is this new rendering method by Luke Ross named ADR 2.0, right? Where it feels like you have a totally different frame rate. Like it does not feel like 48 frames per second, it feels much faster. But it is. So this greatly reduces how much your computer needs to work, right? So this is like revolutionary in that sense. But I can see that it is still in its early stages, right? However, like, this feels just as smooth as my VR mod. Like, the only difference is that mine isn't proper 3D like this. Like, this is unmistakably 3D in every direction, fully stereoscopic, you know what I mean? But I do miss pumping up the graphics a little bit though. That is kind of a sad thing for me. But smoothness wise, really incredible.
Yeah, that's
I am playing with close to 2000 by 2000 pixels. What you can do is you can of course put on a different mode. So I could like head in here and we could, let's see, we could put this on balanced instead, right? And as you see, like, they've been really good with implementing DLSS in this game. And we might turn up the graphics a little bit. Check out our, yeah, it works just fine. However, I do get a little bit of latency. Yeah, the latency is pretty big, but I'm probably doing this wrong.
Howard? Oh, pigeon guy.
Most
He told me
certainly.
about him. Let's see what he needs.
So when you have half rate, then which it is on by default, then supposedly it should run better, but it actually runs best when I put it on a third
Man,
rate.
it's way too cold for people to be out on the street.
And it is really weird, like, it's smooth while not being smooth at the same time. I can't really explain it. It is super weird. So I can imagine, like, when Luke Ross has been able to work on this for a little bit longer, AER 2, then most certainly it will probably be pretty damn amazing, right? Now, if you have trouble running Spider-Man with proper VR 3D, like with Luke Ross's mod, then you can try my mod, or you may try it either way. I mean, the nice thing about my VR mod for Spider-Man is that it's not as graphically demanding. The reason why is because it doesn't give you actual proper stereoscopic 3D, it fakes it. So it creates an illusion of stereoscopic 3D. Hence, you can push your settings higher, okay? Searching, I'll put a link down in the description. You won't need to search for this stuff. The Amazing Spidey VR. 3D VR. Yeah, so I made this just before I had to send my PC to the shop. You just download it, and you need Reshade to play this, because it's a Reshade preset that I made. And you can find Reshade by heading to reshade.me, download the latest version, and if you already had the VR mod installed, you of course need to disable that. Mine is disabled here, so that's okay. And you want to run Reshade, okay? So I'll find it here on my computer. There we go. Spider-Man. So here where it says select preset to install, just skip it, don't worry about it. Here you can uncheck everything. Only thing you will need is Depth 3D by Blue Sky Defender. Excuse me, Depth 3D by Blue Sky Defender. So again, you can uncheck everything, and you only need Super Depth 3D VR plus FX. That's the only one you need. Now you want to place my mod, which is an INI file, inside of your Marvel Spider-Man folder, okay? And then it will be there, like here, the Amazing Spider-Man, the Amazing Spidey 3D, right? That's it. Then you're set to go with that. Next thing though, which is important, you need something to help you display this in 3D. Where you need to be able to display half side-by-side footage in your VR headset. So I've tried a bunch of different options here, and the one that works best for me is Virtual Desktop for the Quest. So I bought mine on the Quest store, not on not on Steam, because there is a PC version of this as well, and for some weird reason I didn't get as good of performance on the PC version. I don't know why, but that's the way it is. But on the Quest it worked just fine. So the difference is like if you're a Quest user, Virtual Desktop on the Quest is made for the Quest. To those of you old timers who've been with the Quest since Quest 1, you probably already have this, because it was the only way to play PC VR wirelessly back in the day, right? So, and I still prefer this to like Oculus Link with the cable. I think it's much better, Virtual Desktop, which I've said many times before. That's it, man. You just need to run this and in Virtual Desktop enable half side by side. I'm gonna show you how to do that though. If you don't want to spend $19.99 on this, there is a free version. I also think the PC version doesn't cost as much. I think it only costs like $9. But the free option is something called the VR Companion app by Blue Sky Defender. Blue Sky Defender is the same guy who made Super Depth 3D, which allows us to see this in 3D. I really love this Reshade shader. It is amazing, man. It looks really good, but it takes a long time making a profile for different games, though, because when you fake it, when you're making the 3D yourself, there are so many small adjustments. Like with Spider-Man, it kind of just happened all on its own. It was really straightforward. But with other games, I've like spent a lot of time on this. That's what I used to call Bat VR. I kind of skipped that now, stopped it, and from now I call it Enhanced Flat Screen instead. Because, yeah, I don't really feel like batch loading a whole bunch of stuff to play my games. And the thing that really makes a difference is this shader right here. So now Bat VR is dead. And now it's all about this, okay? But once you've installed this, right? Next thing though is you will need to change a couple of settings in game, okay? So I'm gonna show you right now which settings I'm talking about. Yep, still have some recording time. A little bit of leeway. Let's see here. So, contrary to Luke Ross's VR mod for this one only works if you use exclusive full screen. Oh yeah? I think actually this is what's on by default in the game. Yeah, exclusive full screen. So that is one thing though. Another thing is you will have to use dynamic resolution scaling. And that's like what I talked about with Luke Ross's VR mod. Like the performance jumps all over the place in Spider-Man. Like in certain sections you might get like 100 FPS, and in others you might dip down to 50 FPS, right? So that's why I think you should restrict your FPS by turning on dynamic resolution scaling. And for some weird reason, I get more 3D effect when I use Insomniac's own upscaling method, IGTI, instead of NVIDIA's. I don't get as many frames, but I get prettier results from using this. Super weird. This is not as demanding as Luke Ross's VR mod, in my experience. So here you can actually turn up your graphics a little bit. I haven't done it because I don't really see that much of a payoff unless you really pump them up. So next thing, if you want to enable my Reshade filter, you press down FM and Home to open your Reshade menu. And here you have something where it says Reshade preset. If you press the little arrow, then you should, there we go, find my profile in your first click, pretty much. That is, if you placed it where I told you to place it, then it should appear like that, okay? Just turn it on and that's it. Turn on performance mode as well, then you get a little bit more FPS. And if everything looks warped and weird in your headset, don't worry about it. It needs to adjust itself for a couple of seconds. And from here you will see 2 images, and that's when you want to enable half SBS. Okay folks, so I'm in virtual desktop here. Let's see, I'm going to show you. There we go. Record. So there, now you can see what I'm seeing. Yeah, I'm in virtual desktop as you see, and to enable half side by side, this is what it's going to look like to you, right? You're not going to see anything. But if you click below the image, this is for those of you who are on virtual desktop for the Quest. Click below the image and then this menu appears, and here we have half side by side. That's it. And you will need a gamepad to play this. See here. There we go. If you're not seeing the game in 3D, if you're not getting any 3D depth, head into your settings, display and graphics, and check that the game is set to exclusive full screen, because it does not work in any other mode, weirdly. Alright, so then we're gonna try and see how this goes. My FPS counter is up in the left corner, so it's not like it does not cost any performance to play it like this. It does cost a lot of performance, but not close to as much as if you were to play the game in proper stereoscopic 3D, because that costs much more performance, right? Because then you have to render everything twice. So this is less demanding, and as you see, even on very low settings, the game still manages to look great, right? So that's the thing when you're playing these types of games. And the 3D depth for me here is awesome. I feel like I'm swinging between buildings. So for me, this is actually my preferred way of playing Spider-Man in my VR headset. You see, I'm keeping mostly 60 FPS without a problem. I prefer this because I can crank up the graphics more. And you saw that like my target was 45 frames per second. So I can easily head into my graphics and turn it up. At least to, yeah, and there you see it dips a lot because it has to change everything. Don't worry about that. Maybe it'll take a second before it manages to adjust itself properly. So we might be getting some low FPS here, but that's just the game like readjusting, basically, right? So here you see it barely costs anything putting this on medium instead of very low. With this, like I really notice it if I'm playing this in proper VR with Luke Ross's mod, then I cannot put it on medium. But with my mod, I don't have any issues with doing that. And keep in mind, like, I have a laptop, 3080 laptop card, and the desktop equivalent of that would be like the 2070 or something, right? So it's not a super beefy GPU. It is in terms of laptop, right? In in the sense of mobile hardware, then the 3080 laptop GPU is pretty awesome, right? But not compared to desktop GPUs. So if you have that kind of a PC, then I think you're going to have a good time with my solution, my VR mod for this. Of course, if you have like a 4090, I mean, come on, you should be able to play it in full stereoscopic 3D with Luke Ross's mod and everything on the highest settings, I'm guessing, right? So, yeah. Oops, yeah, I want to abandon that mission. So the main reason why I love this mod that I made for this game is how it looks graphically, as I said. And I don't think necessarily you should have the field of view the way that I have it in Luke Ross's mod, because there I think it kind of gives another type of effect. Because here you see I have a big screen floating in front of me, and that gives a different experience than if you are playing it in VR like you do with Luke Ross's mod, right? This isn't proper VR, this is fake. Fake 3D, but I hardly see the difference. And the nice thing with Spider-Man Miles Morales is that for some odd reason, this game was extremely easy to set up with Super Depth 3D. Like, insanely easy. It did take a little bit of tinkering. Like I said, I did spend a long time on it, but I got results pretty much immediately with this game. And the results I have here took me quite a long time to get, but yeah, I'm really satisfied. Sad thing though is I'm not sure if it looks like this to you guys. I would love it if you comment down below on how it looks on your end and how it performs. Because on my end, as you see, I'm keeping 60 FPS pretty much with medium settings. I'm guessing I could even put this higher. I want to see how it looks when I put everything on high. I have Insomniac's upscaling method, as I said. Let's see. And here it needs to adjust itself for a second. Alright, yeah, so that takes a little bit more, but I'm still over 50. I'm still over 50 FPS playing this. So, and on ground level I'm hitting 55 frames per second. And this is with stereoscopic 3D. Let's try very high. Needs a second to adjust itself. Yeah. So I'm still keeping over 50 frames per second on very high settings. This is using my VR mod. It gives you stereoscopic 3D, but it fakes it, right? It does the same thing that old 3D monitors would do, right? So it's not as demanding for your GPU. It doesn't need to render everything twice. And it looks great, man. Like, that is my main argument for why you would want to use my mod for this game. It looks beautiful, and yeah, so this is more like the target I set, which was 45 frames per second with dynamic resolution scaling. If you use NVIDIA's DLSS, your frame rate will be higher, but for some weird reason, I don't know why, but for some weird reason, it's like the 3D isn't as strong when I'm using NVIDIA's upscaling method. So I don't know how that works, but it somehow interferes with how SuperDepth 3D VR renders things. I don't know. Yeah, and as you see, I have a little bit of performance issues here and there, but I did turn everything to very high, and I've kind of noticed if you're changing graphics settings in this game, you want to restart the game, usually. Yeah, so here we see a little bit of combat, and this feels so damn amazing when you have stereo 3D, especially these moves, because you feel like Spider-Man is like all up in your face when you're doing it. It's really cool. Oh, yeah. Kind of gets a little harder though at times, because you get so overwhelmed by it. Yeah. Awesome. I think I kept over 50 FPS there as well. Keep in mind, I'm having this now on very high. So I'm gonna check now. I have to stop recording soon because there are some issues with recording internally on the Quest that I've noticed. It deletes your footage if you record for too long. We'll try with DLSS on quality and see which FPS we're gonna get. What do you think? Yeah, I should probably restart the game, because every time you change something here, it loses a couple of frames. Yeah, so immediately though, I see the frame rate is bad, and that is just because I've changed the graphics settings so many times. But the 3D is a little bit less strong. I don't know why that is. It's so weird, man. Generally speaking, this would now perform much better than Insomniac's upscaling method does. But yeah, that's just how it is. Alright folks, so this was a mouthful today. A lot of stuff to talk about, right? I kind of had to do everything at once because, as I said, I'm likely not gonna be able to make videos for a while, and my baby is like this close to getting born now. Yeah, so it's exciting and it's kind of a bit of a hassle. But yeah, I hope you enjoy my VR mod, and I hope you enjoy Luke Ross's VR mod. It's amazing, man. I love VR. I love the times we're living in where modders are able to make stuff playable in VR. Like stuff like Spider-Man. I mean, shit. You feel it like churn down in your stomach when you're playing it in proper 3D and like swinging between buildings. It is amazing. Yeah. So, if you like today's video, please click the like button, leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. Another thing, I've made a Patreon page for Mr. Blee. If you want to support the channel, you can make a donation in there. I haven't really figured out what I want to do with my Patreon page, but I'm guessing I'm going to release all my own mods there, and maybe some other stuff. If you have any tips or any requests, post them down in the comments below. Okay, I'll catch you on the next one, folks. See ya.